from Shin Lamed Beis from Purim 1972, and we're going to learn over here in Ois Lamed Beis what the Rebbe speaks about. But that's going to be the first excerpt. And then there's going to be another small piece about the whole month of Purim. So it says, "Ala pasuk la Yehuda ma'is oida v'simcha v'sas mikar," and the pasuk that says at the conclusion of the Megillah, it says that to the Jewish people was light, joy, happiness, and glory. Isa Gemara is brought down the Gemara that it gives it identifies these by a certain thing. What is this? Oida, light, the Torah, it's going on Torah. He brings a proof. How do I know that Torah, that's the idea of light? Mitzvah Torah, because the candles are mitzvah and Torah is light. So in the movement, seemingly it's not understood. Why does it say, one second, this is, I started a little bit earlier in the Sikha than I wanted to. Let's skip over. Sorry. Let's do this over again. Restart. Okay. Islamic Gimel. The Rebbe goes on and says different things. That there's the idea of Torah is going on the oral Torah, and it's at the level of Mekabel because it's feminine. Oir is masculine. And the Torah Shebal Peh receives from Torah Shebeksav, just like the feminine receives from the masculine. And the difference is that the Oir, Torah, and the masculine, in other words, the written Torah, that was something that we received on Shavuos. It's Ma'at and Torah Seinu. But after the decree of Haman, so then we had the idea of the oral Torah, the level of Oira. Okay, that was the Nakuda that he said earlier in that Sikha that we started. The part that we started learning. Now in Lamed Gimel, according to this, supposed to be explained the continuation of the above mentioned Chazal that they keep on saying after saying Oyruzu Torah. Then it says, what does it mean when the pasuk says Simcha? It's a Yom Tov. It's going on Yom Tov. Sasain, it's a Milah. Sasain is going on the Bris. Yikar, glory, Elut film. It's going on film. Put in a movement. Seemingly, it's not understood. Ein emes, though it is true, and the Gemara brings different psukim to prove it. Torah, Yom Tov, Milah, Tefillin, Nikraim, B'Shem Elu. That Torah is called light, and Yom Tov is called Simcha, and Milah is associated with Sasain, and Tefillin is called Yikar. But Abladain ain't a movement, it's still not understood. What forces the Amoira, the one who said this in the Gemara, to remove the pasuk from its simple meaning that it's talking about literally? There was happiness and joy and gladness and light and glory. What's insufficient with that statement that the Gemara needs to bring in Torah and Yom Tov and Milah and Tefillin? Super big in the Megillah, it's related in the Megillah, there was a decree to destroy, to kill, and to make be lost. After the decree was nullified, they established days of celebration and joy. Simchas Haguf. How did they mark Purim? With a bodily joy. Like it's explained in the Achronim. The reason why there's a difference between the way we celebrate Purim and we celebrate Chanukah. Specifically about Purim, there's an obligation of celebration and joy in a bodily fashion. Literally, we need to eat a meal and we need to drink wine and so on. When it comes to Chanukah, we don't have this obligation of Mishta V'Simcha, of bodily Simcha. We rather we do things that are more spiritual, recite Hallel, which we don't recite on Purim, and we light the candles of the menorah, which candles and light indicate more spiritual things. And the explanation for the difference between the two is since the Chanukah, the decree was against the soul. As opposed to Purim, the decree was on the body. Therefore, also the celebration and the joy has to be connected with the body because of that. So, if Purim was a physical salvation, a bodily salvation, the decree was against the body, and therefore we celebrate with the body. So therefore, Mamela movements, so therefore it's understood. Shagam Oida v'Simcha v'Sasim v'Kar tzrichim leiskip shutam. That when it says Oida and Simcha and Sasim v'Kar, they have to be in the literal sense. Afal became a virus Gemara by V'Nacher. Still, all the Gemara explains it in a different manner. Oida is a Torah, a light. This is Torah. Simcha is a Yomtiv. Simcha is going on Yomtiv. V'Sasim is a Milah. Sasim is going on the Bris Milah. V'Yikar elu Tefillin, and the glory is going on Tefillin. When seemingly the whole joy of Purim should be bound up with the physical. Why does the Gemara leave the simple sense of the pasuk and connect it with the spiritual? The Rebbe answers the idea behind this is with pasuk. We could examine and analyze this pasuk. Adu anemar laihudim haisa oiram. Beloy oir al derech mashakasav b'yitzias Mitzrayim al chovnei Yisrael hoisa oir b'mashvoisam. Why is it saying the pasuk that the entire the Bnei Yisrael was light in the masculine in their settlements? It doesn't say light in the feminine. Oira, it says oir. But another thing we need to analyze. If the entire meaning of the pasuk, then where it says that the Jewish people had light and joy and happiness and glory, is concerning the literal meaning of it. So then the order of the psukim should have been, in the Megillah it should have said, first, towards the end of the Megillah, it said, B'chol Medina, Medina, B'chol Ir V'ir, Makom every single country, every single city, wherever the king's word and his law reaches, it was Simcha and Sasan for the Jewish people. And then following that, it should have concluded that how and what way did it manifest itself? But it doesn't say that order in the Megillah. In the Megillah, it says it the opposite way. It says that the Jewish people had light and happiness and joy and glory before it speaks about the happiness and joy, because the king's law reached them to be able to let them know that they could defend themselves. The Gemara proves that there's two ideas here in the pasuk. One idea is that the Yidden had light and joy and happiness and glory when they felt that they could study Torah and Torah. This is Torah. In other words, the halachas of Torah, like the Rebbe spoke about earlier. Yom Tov, when they felt the freedom that now they could celebrate Yom Tov without being worried about what the non-Jews would be complaining about, because of Yom Tov. They also felt free, l'kayim mitzvahs milah, to fulfill the mitzvah of a bris, sasson zu milah, and they felt the freedom of tefillin, yikar elu tefillin. Then, in addition to the freedom that they felt on the religious plane, of being able to observe Torah mitzvahs, then they had the literal one. That's the next pasuk. V'sasim v'simcha, kipshutim in the literal sense, like it says in the following pasuk, B'chol Medina v'ir, in every state and city, the place that the word of the king and his law reaches them. So because the pasuk is out of order, we know that first they felt the freedom to do the first they felt the freedom to be free in Yiddishkeit, and then they felt the joy. There's another concept behind it. Duber kama pa'amim b'negel l'shatnez, spoken about many times concerning the word shatnez. Shekivim sheshua tavi v'nois. These are different processes in the spinning or joining of materials in making a garment. So Nemru v'teva achas, that says in one word, loimdim mizeh or melameidim mizeh shetzrichim liyas kulam biyachad. We derive that for a beged to be considered shatnez, for a garment to be considered shatnez, it has to have been combined in this type of way of shua tavi v'nois. Not going to go into that right now. So from this, the Rebbe has a rule that whenever we have multiple meanings in the same pasuk, in the same word, it doesn't mean that they are exclusive of each other, but it means they complement each other and they complete each other. Like with the it's concerning the pasuk that Yidden had light, etc. Yes, by base pirushim, it encompasses both explanations. The literal meaning of light. The pasuk does not leave its literal sense. And also it means light is going on Torah. The same thing, the next word in the pasuk, Simcha is kipshuta, Simcha in the literal sense, and v'simcha zayamtiv. And Simcha the zayamtiv. K'di'isa b'targum, like it's brought down the Targum on Megillah Esther, Shah Simcha hoisim zeh. What was the joy? That they were given permission to celebrate Yom Tov, let's say when Pesach comes or when other Yom Tovim came. So that's why they were joyous that they would be able to celebrate the Yom Tov. Similarly, when it says Sasin, it means that Kipshuta in the literal sense of happiness. The Sasin Zumila, it also means Sasin from the word Abris. Yikar, there's the literal meaning, Kipshuta in the literal thing, honor, glory, that non-Jews respect Jews. And also, Yikar Elu Tefillin, and Yikar is also going on Tefillin. Since both meanings are in the same word, literal Simcha and Yom Tov, literal light and Torah, etc., this is an indicator that they're coming together, as the Rebbe is going to explain how they come together. The idea behind this is, when does a Jew have a luminous life in the material, physical sense? Light in the literal sense. Behind this means, when he's going to do business, the misrishal in his job, in his position, and so too in his eating. When is the eating a luminous eating and his parnasa is a luminous one? And he has the capability to pay off the mortgage by not being affected by any difficulties. Even since he sees everything as the light in it. So even if he sees difficulties sometimes, it doesn't scare him off. How does that happen? He has the light, which is Torah, so that everything else is shining and luminous. He has that he has established Torah study in this day. In other words, every day a Yid needs to have set aside time for learning. Through having a set aside time for learning, this illuminates the rest of his day that it should be luminous. If he wants a luminous day, he has to establish and set aside times for Torah study in this day. So then setting aside time for learning by day, it affects the entire day. And setting aside Torah study by night, which is the obligation a person is supposed to set aside. Since it says you have to speak in it night and day, a person has to have a set time for learning during the day and another set time to learn during the night. So the night learning affects, I'll call a Laila, that the entire night should be luminous as well. So to concerning joy, this is going on Yom Tiv. When there's the idea that you will rejoice with Yom Tovim, during the three pilgrimage festivals, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, a person is rejoicing with the happiness of Yom Tov. Then he draws down joy for the entire year. Reportable to the Torah, like explain to the Torah. That from every pilgrimage festival and every Yom Tov, the Hamshacha, the godly revelation, was drawn for the entire duration until the next Yom Tov. From Pesach comes joy to last us till Shavuos. From Shavuos, the joy lasts till Sukkot. From Sukkot, and from Sukkot, the joy lasts until the following Pesach. So here we see how the joy of Yom Tov impacts and brings about joy in a simple sense. So the interpretation of Simcha going on Yom Tov is not separate from the simple meaning that Simcha means joy. So to concerning Sas going on Milam, it says concerning the bris milah, it says, I am rejoicing on your commands, on what you told me to do. What does it mean I'm rejoicing on what you told me to do? So the Chazal say a very interesting thing. That David rejoiced about the mitzvah of bris milah. It's based on Merchet when he was in the bathhouse. He saw himself not engaged neither in Torah study nor engaged in fulfillment of mitzvahs. Once he saw his bris milah, he was rejoicing. And so to concerning glory, that's going on tefillin, honor, that's going on tefillin. Through the laying of tefillin, nasa in the verok lamiarz kishem Hashem nikra lecha b'yarim, through donning the tefillin, so then it affects that all the nations of the world will see that the name of Hashem is called upon you, because that's what's in the tefillin. In the tefillin, there's Hashem's name multiple times, and they will fear you. In other words, they will have honor and respect for you. So we see again the connection between the spiritual meaning of Yakar and the simple meaning that Yakar means having respect, the non-Jews having respect for you. Calls the Shaykh Gambenagel Noshim. All of this is applicable also concerning women. Seemingly, there are things over here that have nothing to do with women. So he says, since the decree was both against men and women, it's understood also the idea of light, and joy, and happiness, and honor. So they have to be both by men and women. So if they have to be both by men and women, how do we see this taking place by men and women as well? Seemingly, this all makes sense when we're talking about the light that's going on Torah. Okay. Women are also obligated to study the halachas that is necessary for them. Therefore, women are also obligated to make the brachas on the Torah in the morning, and so on. Concerning Sasan, which is going on the bris milah, and Yikar is going on tefillin, women have no connection with these two mitzvahs. Abir Bezad explanation this is Benegel the mitzvah milah, concerning the mitzvah of milah. Isa Gemara, it's brought down the Gemara, she Isha Eina Petura Mimil. A woman is not released from the obligation of a bris milah. Ella kimanda mihilada. A woman is considered as if she is circumcised. Therefore, she is included in what it says. Someone that they themselves are mahul, some that they themselves are circumcised, can circumcise others. So one might think that since a woman is not obligated in circumcision, so they may not perform a milah, a bris milah. So the Gemara derives, no, that a woman is obligated and may do a bris milah for her child and so on. Like we have the story with Tzipora. Tzipora also made the bris milah for her son. Why? Because it's not that a woman doesn't have the obligation of a bris milah, but a woman is considered as if she's circumcised. Yeah, the mitzvah tefillin, concerning the mitzvah of tefillin, where do we see a woman's connection with tefillin? Isa bekisvei Arizal, it brought down the writings of the Arizal. Jebasois hazochar as a mitzvah when the male does a mitzvah. Ein ma'atzoidach shagam hanoshim te'asenu levada. There is no need for women to do that mitzvah themselves, because the woman, the wife, is included in her husband's putting on film. What about before she's married? That even before marriage, the woman is released from the obligation of a positive commandment that's time dependent. Oops, wrong thing. So we see the connection. We see the connection that women also are connected with this as well. Okay, I'm not sure, I might have forgotten, left out another paragraph of the Sikha. But this is the point, that all of these things work together, the Simcha in the literal sense, and the Simcha of Yom Tov and so on. Now here's another point, another section of the Farbrengen. The Rebbe says, here, and to note, there is a unbelievable thing that we find concerning the month of Adar, that we don't find anything like it. The Rebbe is always looking for things that are unique in any particular Yom Tov. The entire month of Nisan is called the month of redemption. Still no, we don't find a halacha that a Jewish person that finds himself needing to go to court with a non-Jew, he should make himself available to go to court during Nisan, which is something that we do find concerning the month of Adar. That when it comes to the month of Adar, we say, a person that has to go to court with a non-Jew should make himself available in the month of Adar, because Adar, the mazel is strong. So even though the month of Nisan is called the month of redemption, still in all, we don't find this emphasis of this great power that's connected with the month of redemption. Yes, there is an opinion that this is something that applies also in the month of Nisan, and those that say that a person should and can make themselves available to go to a court case during the month of Nisan, similar to others, rather not because of anything special about Nisan, but because it's considered a continuation of Adar. Not because of what the Yom Tov of Pesach is about. From the 15th of the month begins the idea of going out of Mitzrayim. As opposed to the month of Adar, it says about the entire month, it is the month that was transformed. The Rebbe says this is the big chiddush. Though in the Megillah itself it relates. Then the 13th of Adar, the war was still in its full force. I knew this means even though it was not yet a state and situation that many of the peoples of the land became Jewish, just the opposite. On the 13th of Adar, still, they stood in opposition. One had to battle it. Became still in all after the miracle of Purim occurred the first time around. This affected all the years following this. Beginning from Rosh Chodesh Adar, before the miracle even occurred. The month that was transformed in joy. In such a manner that we have to increase in joy. Like it's spoken about many times, the Rebbe speaks about this, and we will most probably learn the Sikha about it next week. After we became accustomed to be joyous for 3 days, and we know the number 3 indicates something that has a full force and full power. If after 3 days of being joyous, and now on the 4th day a person is joyous, it's not called increasing in joy. Rather, after 3 days of joy, it's simple. It's necessary to add more, or else it's not considered an increase. It's only keeping the status quo. This is understood concerning. When you enter Adar, you increase in joy. Throughout the entire month, you need to increase in joy from day to day, including also the days following Purim. This is the main point. And like I said, we'll probably going to learn next week to see about that. Since it says that when Adar enters, it doesn't say we should increase until we hit Purim, but it's the entire month, because the entire month was transformed to be a joyous occasion. According to this comes out a new idea, a novel thing that we find that has to take place. The Mishnah that Rebbe puts in parentheses, even after the days of Purim, has to be an idea of joy. The joy following Purim has to be even more so than in Purim. It's not in such a way that he loses track between Adar Haman and Baruch Mordechai. The obligation, the Gemara says that a person is obligated to become intoxicated. It doesn't say that about the month of Adar. It only says that about the days of Purim, that a person has an obligation of intoxication. But the idea of increasing in joy is from Adar entering, even at the beginning of Adar, even before the days of Purim. That the first time around, in the days of Adar, in the days of Purim, the first few days of Adar until the 13th, it was not a joyous time. The joy really began on the 14th. So if it was that way, that was still considered the entire month was transformed to joy. So how much more so these days that the beginning of the month has to be transformed to joy? And if the beginning of the month, which in those days was no reason for joyousness, has to be joyful, how much more so the days following Purim? that a person has to be joyous in today's day and age. Even the first time around, the first Purim, the Simcha, the Yidden were in an approach of Simcha in the days following Purim. So for sure, us, that we have joyous days even before Purim, when it comes after Purim, we definitely have to be joyous as well.